So I recently completed one of the more unique Game Boy games ever made. This game just so happened to be Crash Purple Ripto's Rampage, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. But first, my current goal is to collect, beat, 100% every Crash Bandicoot game, and Crash Purple just so happens to be our 11th game in the series. This game was released in 2004 and was released exclusively for the Game Boy Advance. This game sticks out for a couple different reasons compared to the average Crash Bandicoot game. This was actually a crossover game with Spyro, which is incredibly neat. There was actually a separate game called Spyro Orange where you played as Spyro instead of Crash, and you could trade your missing cards back and forth to try and complete the game. This was much more of a mini-game type of game compared to previous Crash games. So the gameplay is much different, thus creating a much shorter video than usual since there isn't a ton to break down other than the main storyline here. So now the question at hand, is Crash Purple a good game? Let's dive into the gameplay and let's figure that out together. This game starts off with Cortex talking with Ripto. They're discussing how it's agreed that they will work together to take out Crash and Spyro by using Ripto's army and having them wear a mask of Spyro and Crash that will turn them against each other rather than be on the same side. Which we then start in Wampa Jungle, where Aku Aku warns Crash that Cortex has sent a new dragon-like army into the jungle to steal the crystals and you have to stop them. In each area there are 5 different crystals and gems. Usually you can get both a crystal and gem, but there's about 2 crystals and gems per level that only provides those. So in order to get all of them, you have to complete every minigame. This now has us starting in Wampa Jungle, where we will go over the crystal and gem minigames. Our first minigame is Grin and Bear. This minigame has you riding the polar bear and it's not too difficult. Our next minigame is Tanks for Memories. This one has you going around in a tank trying to break all the boxes. We didn't have Crashing Down the River. This actually has you in an inner tube trying to dodge the currents. This one is actually really fun. Next we will go over our crystal only minigames, which is Sheep Stampede. This one has you shooting at the sheep before they get over to you. This is definitely a nod to the Spyro series. And then we have Chopper Stopper, which I really dislike these. You then have 2 gem minigames with Crate Smash and Free Falling where you try and break all the boxes to get the gem. Collecting all the crystals and gems allows us for our standoff against Spyro. You have to try and throw Molotov cocktails at the platform against him to try and force him to fall. Rather easy boss fight in my opinion. We then actually regroup with Spyro to find out this is due to Ripto and Cortex joining together. Spyro and Crash then decide to team up to take down their mutual foes. If you enjoyed this video so far, please consider dropping a like or sub to the channel. Currently most of the people watching this video are not subscribed to the channel, and showing some support to the channel can help us improve the quality of the videos and games collected and played. We then head to our second area where we are met by Coco and the Professor, who are working together to try and track down Cortex and Ripto. In Arctic Cliffs there is also 5 crystals and 5 gems to collect. The minigames that share both the crystal and gem are Crash and Burn, which is a jetpack level, Polar Express where you ride the polar bear again, and then Frigid Waters, which is another inner tube level. We then have the 2 crystal exclusive levels, which are Sheep Patrol and Blizzard Ball. Sheep Patrol is just another level of shooting the sheep, while Blizzard Ball has Crash and a hoverboard trying to bounce a ball off the enemies. This feels like a minigame from Crash Bash. Lastly, our 2 remaining gem levels are Crate Step and Crate Smash, which just like the others just require you to hit all the boxes. After collecting the 10 total crystals and gems, we can now advance to our second boss fight. This time it's being our good old friend Tiny. You are riding around in a tank and just trying to hit him. Just dodge his attacks and wait until his shield goes away. After hitting him 3 times he will be defeated. After defeating him, Cortex enlists his next recruit, one that we know really well from our previous game. We now head to Fire Mountain. We got a short cutscene of Blinky appearing and alerting us that Nina has captured the Professor and Coco and destroyed all of the research. There are 5 crystals and 5 gems to collect here as well. The minigames that share both the crystal and gem are Tanking Over the World, which is another tank level, In Hot Water, which is another inner tube level. This one was actually much harder than the previous, but still really fun. Rocket Power, which is another jetpack level, and Bat Attack, which has you riding a bat. I really struggled with this one for some reason. And then you have Chop Till You Drop for a crystal, which is by far the hardest minigame for me, for no reason either, and Crate Step, which is for a gem. After collecting all the gems and crystals, we get our chance to save the Professor and Coco from Nina. Spyro tells us to distract Nina so he can get them to safety. I really struggled with this one for some reason. The jumps really threw me off. It took me multiple attempts. I was hoping for an actual boss fight here, to be honest, but what's a Crash game without being chased by something? After defeating Nina, we get a cutscene of the professor telling us to try and lure Ripto and Cortex out so we can place a tracer on them to track them back to their hideout. We are now moving into Dragon Castles, the homeland for Spyro. There are 5 crystals and 5 gems here as well. The minigames that share a crystal and gem are Up, Up, and Away, which is a jetpack level. This took me a few attempts to get all the crates for the gem. Bats and the Belfry, which is another level riding the bat. And Tanks RS, which is another tank minigame. I actually don't hate the tank levels, it just takes so long to defeat them. We then have our crystal exclusive levels, which is Sheep Shuttle and Castled Chaos, which both are extremely easy. Our gym exclusive levels here are Crate Smash and Free Fallin'. The Free Fallin' level took me quite a few tries to try and time the jumps properly, but it wasn't too bad. After collecting all the gems and crystals, we get our chance to go against Ripto. This boss fight took me so long to figure out how to deal damage to him. I thought I could just dodge him and he would get hit by that light, but after a few attempts, I realized I had to shoot that dark blue bird to deal damage at him. After dealing enough damage, you can defeat him, but he does get away. Thankfully, the professor and Coco were able to land the tracer on him. We are now able to travel to our final area, Tech Park. You have to have all the gems in order to travel here though, which we did. We still have 5 crystals and gems here to collect as well. Our shared minigames are Bear With Me, which is another bear riding level. Tank You, Come Again, which is another tank level. And Bat to the Future, which is another bat riding level. These are all harder this go around. And Bat to the Future, which is another bat riding level. These are all harder this go around, but thankfully at this point I've figured out the mechanics for each, which made it a little easier. Our crystal exclusive minigames here are Crash at the Controls. And if you remember me mentioning earlier, these minigames were the hardest for me for some reason. We didn't have Tech Deflect, which was a breeze. Our gym exclusive minigames were Crate Smash and Free Fallin', and these were also difficult, but not too bad. We did have our chance to rematch Ripto and Cortex in the Space Chase, and I'm not exactly sure if I did it right, but I just spammed my shooting button and got as close as I can to just spam blast them. It took 1 or 2 tries, but it did in fact work, and I was able to coast to the finish line from there. But now that you've been refreshed on the contents of this game, or introduced to it for the first time, what do you think? Was it a good game? My opinion might be one of the lower tier games in the Crash Bandicoot series, but it was still a very interesting game. I thought the idea of this game was amazing. Develop a game that has both Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and give them their own game and have a completely mirrored game for the other as well. I think the biggest mistake was not creating this game for the newer consoles. Imagine an open world game with both Crash and Spyro. It would have done numbers. And I wasn't a huge fan of the repetitive minigames either. Though after playing both Crash Purple and Spyro Orange, I was a much bigger fan of this one. Spyro Orange, you have to beat the minigames 3 times in order to complete it. Crash Purple, you just had to do it once if you could get the gem and crystal. But the soundtrack was also, once again, solid, and I thought the storyline was good for what it was, but the execution wasn't there for me. I think if you port this idea to a different console, you had a Game of the Year candidate, but the repetitive minigames and gameplay restrictions really bothered me. With that being said, my overall rating for this game is a 6.5 out of 10, which if we're grading this would result in a 65%, which is a D. I think this game had all the potential in the world and would be a gold mine if they looked back into recreating this concept on a newer console, but the repetitive minigames and the restrictions of what you could do on the Game Boy really limited this game for me. With all that being said, our next game in the series is Crash Tag Team Racing, which is our 3rd racing game in the series. Pretty excited to start it. If you watch this long, I really do appreciate your time, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.